Hello, and welcome to Rise to Your Money Power. I'm Pamela Plick, and in this series, I have honest conversations with amazing women who have risen above self-doubt, limiting beliefs, and fears to step into their money power. These successful, purpose-driven women share not only their previous challenges around money, spiritual, emotional, and the practical side, but also what steps they took to overcome these challenges, as well as what they do on a daily basis to stay in their money power. My intention for you today is to learn from these women and become inspired to take the next step to rise to your money power. I am so excited to have Marsh Engle, CEO of Marsh Engle Media, with us today. Hello, Marsh.
Hey, Pamela. So happy to be with you.
Oh, I'm great. I'm happy to have this conversation with you. Before we jump in, let me just tell our viewers a little bit about you. Marsh Engle is a pioneer and leading authority in the field of women's success in bridging creativity, feminine esteem, and achievement. A multi-published author of the Amazing Women book series and award-winning entrepreneur, her work and multi-decade research promote practices that lead women to succeed with influence and impact. Thank you for being here today, Marsh.
Yes, wonderful.
All right, so let's just jump right in. And the first question that I have for you, if you could please share with us a little bit about your money story and how it impacted you on your journey as an entrepreneur.
Such a deep, rich question, Pamela. I gave a lot of thought to about where could I start, because we all have a story, and it could start as early as childhood. It could be, when I was graduating from university. It could be all different areas of my life. I think it was enriching my relationship with my ability to stand in my power and be the amazing woman that you are, that I am, that we all are, and really see myself as that. And when I asked myself the question, what it really took me back to is when I was running my marketing agency for television and film studios, and I built a very highly successful, highly respected organization, and I was a workaholic.
Mm-hmm.
All I did was work and work and work and try to provide. I had 2 young sons. I tried to provide. I was just working. And honestly, I got caught in the cycle of what our society has taught us very, very well. And that is a sense of fulfillment comes when we work long hours, we earn it, we make it happen, we sacrifice, think about everything it has taught us. And I became victim to that, honestly. I became victim to the believer that my sense of fulfillment, my sense of connection, my sense of belongingness, everything that I longed for, unknowingly longed for, I will say, was going to happen when the next new account came along, or the next new purchase that I'd been hoping for, a new car, a new whatever, the material world. And it really was very addictive. I'm going to tell you that I didn't know any other way to be.
Mm-hmm.
This may not be a popular conversation, because a lot of society still teaches us that when we achieve, we will have that sense of fulfillment. And I'm here to say that what I discovered was when I achieved a sense of fulfillment is when I stopped.
Mm-hmm.
When I stopped that.
Okay.
Stopped this, and I was purposefully stopped. I got a wild diagnosis of lymphoma. My mom died, my dad died, all within 18 months. You may have already heard me tell this story before, but it was that pivotal moment that stopped me cold in my tracks and said, life has got to be different than this. There's no need for me to run myself into the ground or try to find a sense of fulfillment through my external doing.
Right, yeah.
Let me stop that. Let me just stop that. Now, some of this I didn't know at the time. What I did was I, jumped out, walked away from the way things had been, made an agreement with myself that I would explore and investigate the world of amazing women, because I wanted to know, how did they find a sense of fulfillment? How did they find that sense of connection? How did they find that sense of community and belongingness? I really wanted to know. So I did. I stepped out and did this journey of investigating and studying and discovering from the world of women from all walks of life. So many times when I was first writing the Amazing Woman book series, interviewers would ask me, what's it take to be an amazing woman? And I said, I don't understand the question. What's it mean? What level of achievement do you have to reach? And I said, no. That's not what we're talking about with Amazing Women.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about that inner sense of fulfillment. And through that inner sense of fulfillment comes that connection with our ability to manifest and that ability to have prosperity and that ability to stand in our money power.
Yeah.
Because that's where our true confidence and true esteem comes from my perspective.
Okay, good. Now, what struggles were the most challenging to overcome in terms of your money power, and your money beliefs? Because you mentioned you had a pivotal moment, a couple of them, that kind of forced you to look at your life, make a change. But how did that relate to your beliefs about money and how you could successfully make that change?
It was an incredible struggle, I'm going to tell you, because I went cold turkey. I went straight from the focus being an external. I've got to generate. I've got to make it happen. I've got to strategize. I've got to not miss a meeting. I've got to make sure I'm network. I've got to do. To let me listen more deeply.
Mm-hmm.
Let me pay attention more deeply. Let me notice the opportunities and the prosperity that are presenting themselves. Let me get very, very clear on my intention. And then let me notice when opportunities start to match those intentions and doors begin to open. And this sounds so far out, even when I'm talking about it today, but I'm going to tell you, when we allow ourselves to lean into that depth of trust.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote a book called The Sacred Agreements, and one of the sacred agreements is collaborate with sheer trust. And what I mean by that is I'm not necessarily talking about collaborating with others. I'm talking about collaborating with yourself, with your higher knowing, and allow yourself to trust at that level. So trust had not always been an easy thing for me. Trust, I'm certain that, moving into the journey of shifting the way I manifest, the way I take action, the way I create, shifting that was an exercise in learning what trust really means.
Sure.
What that level of connection with trust can really bring to us. And I think trust would be the number one thing. The other was external judgment of the way I was beginning to live my life versus the way I had been living my life. Before it was, very much an external identity. Now I was shifting into more of understanding who I am, what I stand for. How do I want to invest my creativity? How do I want to invest my words? How do I want to surround myself with the people that I'd like to surround myself with? Everything became more of an experience of creating the energy of prosperity and the energy of true power when it came to my life or when it came to my relationship with generating income and money. So everything shifted. Now, this wasn't an overnight, I've been doing this for 25 years. So it was not an overnight experience for me. It took time for me to step into that and to lean more deeply into that. And of recent, I've leaned into it even more deeply.
Okay. Now, I know that self-worth kind of played a part in there somewhere. So how did you realize and come to realize your self-worth? How did that affect your evolution in terms of rising to your money power?
Well, I'd like to say that I believe I'm still understanding my self-worth. I don't know that we ever get to understand how incredibly worthy and how much worth we have to the world, especially as women. I could speak to this from a broader perspective of we as women and how our sense of self-worth or a sense of our own personal higher self is has been dimmed down, has been denied for way too long. And, I'm a very big believer that when we as women open up and begin to trust that inner that inner space, that inner creativity, that innovation that wants to come through us, those good ideas that others are rejecting, those maybe there's not trailblazers before us showing the way or lighting the way. Maybe there's not anyone reflecting the ideas that we bring forth. And so we have to begin to see our own worthiness and our own worth in order to be able to trust those ideas. So that was a journey, and still is a journey. It still is a journey. It's amazing to me how much outside influence continues to filter and keep me and keep many of us in denying the real truth of who we are. And every day it's my commitment to stand more strongly in my worth. And I encourage women to do that as well, because I think we never get to the finish line on that. So my journey, I've often said to you, I think when we did our pre-interview, I spoke about, I was, a multimillionaire with the lowest self-esteem of anybody you know. And it was because, I hate to, it's just truth though.
True. No, yeah. It's the truth. Yeah.
I had this, some people call it imposter syndrome, but I was just so leaned into making it happen and working it and struggling and pushing. And some of this is sounding familiar to some of you that are listening today. It's like we wake up in the morning and we think, how can I do? And my practice is to wake up in the morning and how can I stay present with all that's here for me? How can I stay present to the opportunities that are being presented? How can I continue to stay true to what I stand for? How can I remember what I stand for even when there's a pushback that might happen?
Yeah.
How can I really find true deep humility and knowing that there's a higher purpose moving through me, and that when I can allow that to happen, things go into flow. When I push against it, things become a struggle. So I think it's a continuing journey for all of us, but especially women, because we as women have bought into, much like I did, in order to succeed in a masculine framework, a masculine world, I had to become a masculine image.
Yes.
And that's what I did. When I left, when I had my pivotal moment and I left, I went inward and I began to ignite a feminine perspective of my relationship with my earning capacities, with how I earn, with how I take action, with how I collaborate, with how I choose my intentions, stay true to my intentions. All of this was from a very feminine perspective. At the time, I did not know that. I just knew that I was changing.
Yeah.
As time went on, I realized that what I was doing was innovating and creating, identifying for myself and for others a paradigm of feminine success. How could we take action but not lose our sense of true essence of who we are?
Absolutely. And, it's funny, as you were talking, my first thought was, I'm sure there's a lot of us that grew up in corporate America in the 80s. And basically our behavior was like a man in a skirt, because that's what you did to get ahead at that time.
Yes.
And yes, and the evolution is so exciting to see that evolution from, we all have, like, you teach, the masculine and the feminine side, but it's wonderful to see that feminine side come out, because there's just so much that the feminine has to offer. The feminine heart, as you call it, has to offer. And I just think that's so exciting.
And to live from the feminine, to live feminine success or to live feminine leadership, it's not about sitting and owning. Many times we've thought that the feminine is all about meditation, or it's all about, just sitting and being still and not taking action. No, the feminine is about listening deeply, getting very clear, and then acting deliberately, acting with great intention. And, I manifest, I work, I lead programs, I, lead a movement actually. And the difference is I'm not struggling to push against something. I'm standing in the flow of where does this wish to take us? Where does this wish to take me? Where does this wish to take the community? Where does this wish to take the culture of women's success?
Right.
That really is meaningful to me. And when we look at our money power, I think that's one of the big pieces. What you're bringing forth, why I'm such a fan of your work and what you do, Pamela, is that our relationship with our money power as women, you and I've spoken about how women are tending to be underfunded. And I don't know what the statistics are now, but I know at one point when you and I were speaking, that we tend to be underfunded and for our business startups. And we tend to we struggle or we reach what we believe is a ceiling. And all of that, going back to your question about worth, all of that is about going inward and identifying our true gifts and talents and how we can trust those and how we can put those into action and form, how we can give them a destiny, how we can give those ideas something that others can take away, use, explore, benefit from, transform from, how their lives can be improved by what we bring forth in the world. But we have to at first know that we have that level of worth and trust that worth is there, expanding constantly. So even when we think we've hit a wall, it's because our worth is wanting to stretch even more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I have to also say that you are one of the most creative people that I know. Okay.
Thank you.
And, you know, one of the one of the challenges that I see with a lot of creative women that I work with, and, we've talked about the money archetypes, the voices that are talking to you in your head about money. And one of them is called the creator artist. And, so what I find with a lot of creative people is that they kind of have a love-hate relationship with money. It's kind of like, I just want to put my work out into the world. I don't want to worry about money. If I never had to deal with money, that would be great for me. But what they have to realize is that, for most people that live on purpose, it's really not about, number one, it's not about the money. It's about fulfilling your purpose and bringing your gifts to the world, right? But it is okay to make money because honestly, the more money you make, the better or easier it is to bring your gifts. You can bring your gifts to the world, make a bigger impact. And I've seen you've done that as well. So how did you reconcile the creative side, I just want to do what I do, with it's okay to make money? Because
it's such a great question. It's really a good question because it's a pivotal moment, especially for any of you that are listening that are creators, that you love creativity. And I love creativity. It's like it must be, beauty and creativity are way high in my list of values. It's what I love most about life, is celebrating beauty and creativity. And what I got to is that there's two things that are going on. One is I love to create, and I love for people to experience my creativity. Nothing makes me happier than to do a session with you or any of my clients and then see you take that creativity and run with it. See you take that creativity and benefit millions from it. I love to see that. So there's two things going on. I love creativity and I love to see people benefit from it. So in order to see people benefit from it, I put structure around it. And then I began to realize that money is simply energy. It's simply energy. So how can I begin to allow myself to be a magnet for that kind of energy?
Yeah.
Okay. The more I gave, okay, the more I was willing to pull the curtain back on all of my experience, all of my resources, all of my abilities, all of my gifts and talents, the more I pull that curtain back. And by the way, I keep pulling that curtain back. I think our gifts and talents are so deep that we don't even know. But the more I began to pull that back and the more I began to give it to people, meaning share it with people, became a resource for people, moved in from the creator to the teacher, perhaps. You probably have a teacher archetype within your money power program as well, or something like that. But
yes,
become the creator and then teach or share that aspect of me that I've been creating and learning about. And then doing those two aspects, continuing to stay in the flow of my creativity and flowing into giving and being a resource for others, I became a magnet then for financial abundance to find me. Or we could say, became a magnet for the energy of money to find me.
Mm-hmm.
So It wasn't like am I making sense here, Pamela? It wasn't.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It wasn't like I was creating and putting it on the closet shelf and thinking, oh, well, that's only part of it. That's very self-serving, quite honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been that before, so I can say that with all honesty from my own perspective and my own vulnerability. But when I became creative and said, how can I benefit others with this creativity? How can I improve the world? How can I, honestly, where I am right now is how can I create a legacy through the creativity that moves through me? How can I do that and benefit others? That's when I became one with the flow of financial abundance or prosperity or money power to find its way, the energy of money to find its way to me. So I think that we as creators have a deep responsibility. Anyone in the creative archetype has a deep responsibility to not only create, but to give structure to what we've created so that
Mm-hmm.
others can be organized into benefiting from it. And this is something that took a while because as a creative archetype, one of the things is we're a little bit timid with our creativity at times, right? I mean, you probably look at the shadow of the creative archetype and I'm sure certain you have and you work with your clients, but we can be timid, we can be shy, we can be afraid of what others will say about it.
Mm-hmm.
We can be, what are some of the things? What else is there? We can be, honestly, I've been selfish with it before. I love this so much, I just want it for me. And now I find, I love this so much, who can I give this to?
Right. Yeah. And, and that's so exciting. Actually, what you're talking about, there are actually the three archetypes that we want to aspire to, basically it be in the front seat of our financial car. It's the magician, which the magician is where you know that abundance is going to come to you. You feel, you have that spiritual aspect. The creator artist is where you're building those gifts and that you want to give to the world. And then also the warrior, because the warrior is what makes it happen. So those are ideally the three that we want to have dominant. And you just spoke about all three, and a lot of times it takes work to get to that, because a lot of times some folks, especially with the creator artists, there's also a little bit of the innocent, and I always use the analogy of putting, with an ostrich burying their head in the sand. It's kind of like, I don't want to know about it. Let somebody else take care of it. All I want to do is work, give my gifts. So sometimes it does take an evolution. You mentioned you've been working on this for 25 years and you've done really well with it, so you're the epitome of how, we want to make sure that we evolve,
I love that you brought up the warrior archetype.
Yeah.
Sometimes when we hear warrior, we think, oh, I don't want to go to war with anybody, especially the creative, who's the sensitive, who's the intuitive, no, but what we're talking about, and I think, tell me if this is what you mean when you say warrior, but we mean we know what we stand for and we're willing to stand for it. We're willing to take a stand in the world, no matter what the pushback is, no matter what the perspective is. I know in Rise Amazing Woman Rise, the latest book that just released, by the way, you're in it, and Rise Amazing Woman Rise, beautiful book, but in that I spoke about how when Amazing Woman's Day, that was my creative idea.
Yes.
Amazing Woman's Day was my creative idea, and I took it to my advisors, and my advisors said, if you identify Amazing Woman's Day as a movement of feminine success or feminine leadership, remember this is 1999, 2000, but if you identify that, people are going to think it's weak, that it's not meaningful. I know, sad, but that was just the truth. And believe it or not, half of my advisors, or more than half, were women that said that to me. So it's not just, it wasn't just men. It was my advisors felt that the word feminine equaled weakness. So my warrior kicked in. So my creator said, let's do Amazing Women's Day. My warrior kicked in and said, I don't know about that. I'm going to take a stand for it. I'm going to go for it. And I did have a lot of pushback, and I did have people laughing or saying, you know, what is this you're talking about? Or you're making this up. And yeah, I sort of was making it up, wasn't I? I was guided to innovate a new way of talking about our success or our leadership. And I was learning as I went. So that warrior was willing to take a stand, but she was also willing to be the magician. Or is that what you said, the magician?
Have faith, have faith that, you know, the abundance is going to work. The universe is working in our favor, you know, and it's exciting. You know, the warrior also, they do listen to advisors, you know, however, they make their own decisions. So they get the input, but they are making their own decisions. You're not going to just go by what someone else is telling you that you should do. You know, if you know in your heart, this is what.
That's where that the creative is tuned in. Generally, the creative is tuned in to higher guidance.
That's right.
Creator's tuned in, and she or he will go in and say, you know, let me discern, is this advice in alignment with what my calling is what I'm called to create? And if the answer was no, in the case of me, the answer was a big, strong, all capital letters with a bunch of exclamation points. No, you are to bring forth this idea, even if you, Marsh, do not understand completely what that stands for. You will understand through the creation of it. So I said, I'm going to go with it, and let's invent it as we go. Let's do this as we go. And it was probably, I'm going to tell you, it was a long stretch of probably 10 years before the word feminine next to success was accepted, or the word feminine next to leadership was seen as with high regard. There was a period. So I'm going to tell you, you asked me earlier in our session today, what were some of the things I had to battle with? And that was second guessing myself.
Yeah.
It was like, I don't know, were my advisors right? You know, was I right? You know, was I right, or were they right? Or is there some level of all of us were right, which is probably the case. The advisors were giving me advice on current day patterning, and I was seeing something that was coming through. So the creator, and I think what I'm saying here is to all creators that are listening, or all of you that have ideas, or you want to innovate something, or maybe you're getting ready. I have a lot of clients right now that have new books coming out. You're one of them. I have clients that are starting new coaching programs. They're launching with a whole new languaging around it. I have clients that are launching retreats, travel retreats. They're putting themselves out there. For any of you that are doing that, know that you do not have to know all of your answers before you begin. What you have to know as a creator is the willingness to trust that the idea you've been given will have its time to shine, and you're fine exactly where you are, and letting it move through you, taking it out into the world, and learning as you create. And then that warrior is knowing what you're standing for. And then that I love all of these archetypes. I love the study of archetypes, and I love that you're doing that.
Yes. Well, thank you. That's awesome. What are some of the actionable steps or daily habits that that you would like to share that keep you focused and on track in owning your money power?
Well, I have great structure around my organization. I know what I'm working on. I know where to put my energy. That's the first thing. Is that as a creator, don't be afraid to give structure to the work. And even if your structure falls away and a new structure comes along, that's okay too. I've restructured the movement of Amazing Woman multiple times because society, our cultural evolution has required that the Amazing Woman programs be restructured. I've restructured based on my own interests in what matters to me. but I give structure to it, because if you think of creativity as being, pardon my nose, I'm sorry, when I get going, my nose tends to run, so pardon my nose. But I think that creativity is this the looseness of creativity. Imagine that as maybe even like water, like the flow of water is the creative idea. You have to have a vessel to put that water in. So you have to have that structure to put the water in order for it to take form in the world. So when we have our good creative ideas, so the first thing is give structure to it. You do not have to have a lot of good ideas. You have to have the ones you believe in. Mm-hmm. So you could have one great idea that you work on continuously and let it evolve, or you could have multiple good ideas and have them all happening at the same time around one core idea. Does this make sense what I'm saying? Uh-huh. So if we had longer, I would coach just on how to do that. But you've got one core idea, say it's Amazing Woman, feminine success is my core idea. And then I have books, I have retreats, I have coaching programs, mastermind groups, all of that then stems from that one good idea, very structured. So that's the first thing. The other is I continually practice deepening my ability to listen to my community and to listen to my own inner guidance. And when I stop listening to my own inner guidance or to my community, what people are needing in the world, what they feel they could best benefit from. When I stop listening to that is when things begin to go flatline, but when it's stagnant. When it's filled with energy and enthusiasm, it's when I'm in tune, and I'm in tune with the community. I'm in tune with what people can best benefit from. So my work then becomes a vessel, then my creativity, given structure, it becomes then the vessel for giving to others, but doing that with the willingness to be spontaneous with my ideas, also willing to let go of thinking that I've got the greatest idea and work with a sense of humility and knowing that a better idea may be coming along, that I'm going to need to let go of the way things have been so that the new can come through. So that would be another practice that I do. In order to deepen that, of course, meditation.
Okay, yeah.
Sacred space. My office is sacred space. My creativity is seen as highly sacred. My work, I even call it sacred work. I believe our work is very sacred, and meaning that it means a lot to my own integrity, and it means a lot to the contribution to the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that keeping in mind that our spiritual practice is probably the most key. When I say spiritual practice, I don't mean a religious practice. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. A spiritual practice can be walking in nature. A spiritual practice can be meditation in our own form. It can be journaling and getting in tune with what's wanting to be said. It can be, everything can be a spiritual practice, honestly, when we stay present. So being present and having a spiritual practice keeps us anchored in our power. And then whether it be money or whether it be our creativity or whether it be relationships with others, we begin then to expand our ability to have a better life and a better, I think, more prosperity and more abundance and a richness all around.
Yes, absolutely. That's wonderful. I'm a big believer in, starting your day with a spiritual practice, because it gets you grounded, and you have to clear all that mind chatter in order for the creative ideas to come in, right? Because you have to listen. If your mind is all cluttered, then you're not listening. So,
and the other thing is movement. I'm going to talk to you about that in a second, because I can have a good creative idea, or I can be working in session with a client with their creativity, and I'll be guided or have the insight to get up and move around, just get up and move around my office, and new ideas. With movement, your creativity amplifies and expands. So you can be sitting writing and thinking you've got the best idea in the world flowing, and you might have, but stop for a moment when it's time and walk around and see new answers and solutions that come. It's amazing to me how the marriage of the two, the stillness and letting the flow of creativity come through while you're in movement, amplifies. So that's another thing that I think I really practice movement, walking a lot, staying, up. I have an Apple Watch. Anybody that has an Apple Watch, it's programmed to stand. My watch is programmed to stand 12 times a day. So even if I'm not standing, it will program me. It will ding me. It's time to stand. It's time to move. It's time to get going. So I think that there's a lot we can do. There's so much we can do to expand our prosperity. It's not all about the the external pushing to make things happen. It's really all about tuning in, and that doing that happens from our inside can be incredibly, incredibly powerful.
Yeah. Okay, so the last question that I have is if you could please just share one piece of advice to our audience that you feel will help them in taking that leap of faith to live the life that they desire.
I think we touched on it for just a second, but it's that internal dialogue that can get in our way. Mm-hmm. That internal dialogue comes from a pre-existing conversation. That internal dialogue is not a new idea. It's an idea that is continually surfacing, and it might shake its shift in form in the way it says it to you, but it's generally the same idea over and over again. And generally it's one that's not empowering. Generally it's one that's disempowering or not your best friend. So my advice would be, you are a powerful, powerful creator beyond anything you can imagine. So commit to shifting the conversation. Commit to shifting the conversation within yourself. Notice your words and notice how you can shift the conversation in the external as well. So be the trailblazer of not only shifting your own internal environment of dialogue, but also shift the dialogue and the conversations that are happening in your communities. Be that trailblazer. Be the one that brings forth I know I'm changing the dialogue here, I'm changing our conversation, but here's a new idea. Here's a new way of looking at things. Here's a new way of standing in our power. Here's a new way of collaborating. Here's a new way of supporting one another. And I think that if we individually, can you imagine, Pamela, if we each individually said, today's the day I'm going to shift the conversation. Today's the day I'm going to shift my own inner dialogue, my own conversation with myself. And this isn't blue skying. This is about tuning in, trusting, listening deeply, and going for it.
Yeah.
That's what the shift's about. This isn't about, oh, I'm confident today. No, I wake up and say, okay, I could use some help with my confidence today. Okay, I could use some support from people around me, or I could use some support with some guidance here on what a next step. So I'm incredibly honest with the way I'm feeling. Shifting the dialogue doesn't mean blue skying it. Shifting your conversation means you're incredibly honest, you're incredibly vulnerable, you're incredibly truthful, and you stand in your power for what you stand for. And that to me is the most powerful thing we can do as women.
Oh my goodness, I agree. That's beautiful. Thank you again, Marsh, for taking the time to have this conversation. Please tell the audience, what your new project is and how they can connect and learn more about you.
Oh, I'd love to tell them. Amazing Woman Nation is an incredible opportunity for women to come together in collaboration. We have new books coming out. We just had Rise, Amazing Woman, Rise. We had before that Dear Amazing Daughter. We have a new one coming out next year. A beautiful community of powerhouse transformational teachers and leaders, authors coming together. It's a place where you can find your purpose and you can put your purpose into action. I'm all about us walking it out into the world. So amazingwomannation.com. Of course, you can visit marshengle.com. I do private coaching, have a mastermind community that's beautiful. It's in Pasadena, getting ready to do one that will be online. So those of you that do not live in California or nearby Pasadena, which is probably a whole lot of you, you'll be able to take part in some online programs. We have live events that are coming up. I'm getting ready to amp up for some networking events that I'm going to be leading in Pasadena again, but any of you that are nearby, please plan to come. But the first step would be go to amazingwomannation.com. Put in your email address there so you can stay in contact with us, and lots of good things going on there, including individual guidance that will help you get your purpose out into the world.
Yes, I can attest to that it's a wonderful community of like-minded, purpose-driven women. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
I truly believe that our personal relationship with money directly impacts how successful we are in our professional lives as well as our personal lives. And hopefully that message kind of resonated with you through my conversation with Marsh today. And I'd love to hear your feedback about what your biggest takeaway is from today's conversation. So please subscribe, like, or leave a comment below to let me know. And what I'd like to do is leave us with this quote. And this quote is actually from Marsh Engle. And the quote says, "Today, one step will matter, one step past the ordinary, one step past the safety of procrastination, one step beyond the edge of doubt. Today, one step will matter." And it's that one small step that will make the biggest difference, not just for today, but for tomorrow, always. Thank you so much for spending the time with us today. Until next time, remember, you can rise to your money power.